Hi, my name is Gayle Britt, and I teach 7th grade social studies and language arts, and I also teach 9th grade humanities this year. I've been teaching at my middle school since 1994 now. When I use technology in the classroom, I'm anxious to use it in the way where kids really learn. And I have found that using a software that has kids do some sort of visualization or simulation really tells me a lot about their learning, as well as making them learn deeper. I've used Stagecast Creator for quite a while as a simulation program, and I and the kids are totally amazed by what happens when they use the software. For example, one time I worked with a science teacher, and the kids were learning DNA, and they passed their test, they had all the facts correct, and we're sailing along. So I took them to the lab and said, okay, we're going to simulate DNA. And they sat down and opened up Creator, and they said, ooh, I've got to go get my book again. And so what we saw was that, yes, the kids needed to know the facts, but then they needed to try to put those facts into some sort of simulation. And when they were finished with those DNA worlds, they knew DNA. It was very exciting. In my social studies class, I have kids do simulations of history. And in my language arts class, I have discovered that writing stories with different endings is very it's a very good way to learn story writing. As a matter of fact, a professional animator told me that the animators always write more than one ending to a story. And I don't know if you remember, but several years ago there were some books called Choose Your Own Adventure. And when you would open the book, it would say, you'd be reading along, and it would say, well, if you want the princess to go home, turn to page 80. If you want the princess to meet her knight in shining armor, go to page 160. You were all the time flipping the pages. With Creator, it's perfect. And so last year I had the students create a world or game about the Middle Ages. And they created knights who chose to either go be part of the Crusades, or perhaps they went somewhere else and caught the Black Plague. And they had to know some history, and they also had so much fun. And I think that's what I'm really getting down to. The learning of the content matter is excellent, but you know what I really see is that we need to make teaching more student-centered. And what is the world of the student except computer games? And so I will never forget when the first time I told them, I want you to create a story, a game using Creator with a story. And one of my students said, oh, Mrs. Britt, you mean a RPG? And I said, an RPG? And he said, yeah, don't you know what that is? Of course I did not. And he said, well, that's a role-playing game. So I did some investigation. And these role-playing games have very intricate, complicated plots, much more complicated than the stories I was getting from the students. And of course, some of them aren't appropriate for classrooms, so I didn't mean to bring those in there. But what I'm thinking is, if this is what the kids are doing at home, then why can't the classroom be as exciting, and they can create stories that are as exciting. Another thing, the year I first introduced Stagecast Creator at my middle school, the kids would not stay out of the computer lab. They were in there at recess time, they were in there after school, they were begging me to come before school. They wanted to be there. And since I also use the program in my curriculum, in my social studies class, oftentimes when kids come in at the beginning of the year, oh, are we going to get to use that game-making program, Mrs. Britt? And of course I say yes. And it's really motivational. I can't say enough about it.